Okay, so for section 2.2, we're going to talk about properties of parallel lines. And again, there's going to be a quiz after section 2.3, which is going to be after the next section. Okay, so now all we're going to do today to make things different than yesterday is we're going to make those two lines parallel. And then some special stuff is going to happen with those angles that we're talking about. So if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, we're still going to have something called alternate interior angles. And what's going to happen is those alternate interior angles are going to be congruent. Okay, we're also still going to have corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are going to be congruent. And then we're going to have something again with the alternate exterior angles, and those are also going to be congruent. And then if you have same side interior angles, those are going to be supplementary. Again, supplementary means that they're going to add to 180 degrees. Okay, and then the other type of angle that's going to come up in here is something called vertical angles. And the thing that's special about vertical angles is that vertical angles are congruent. So if we look at our picture on the left, angle B and angle D are vertical angles, so they're going to be congruent, and angle A and angle C are vertical angles, so they're going to be congruent. And then if we use, over on the right-hand side, if we take a picture and actually put some numbers into it, again, you can see that these two angles are vertical and that they're both 65 degrees. And then these two angles are vertical and they're both 115 degrees. Also note that if you took the two adjacent angles here and added them together, any two adjacent angles, here to here, here to here, they're going to add up to 180 because they form a straight line. So all that's going to come into play in our work today. Okay, so for our first example, if line L is parallel to line M and the measure of angle 1 is 150 degrees, find the remaining angles and provide a reason. Okay, so I'm going to put the 150 in here, and it doesn't matter the order that you go in. You can find any angle that you want first. I'll try to go in order from 2 to 8, but I also kind of might mix it up just to try to get some of that vocabulary inside there as well. Okay, so angle 2, angle 1, and angle 2 are supplementary, so they have to add up to 180. So 180 minus 50 would be 30, so angle 2 is going to be 30, and that's because it is supplementary to angle 1. Shorthand so I can fit it in there. Okay, angle 3. Angle 3, I'm going to say, is vertical to angle 2, and vertical angles are congruent. So if angle 2 is 30 degrees, that means that angle 3 is 30 degrees. So again, that's going to be vertical to angle 2. Okay, I'm going to skip over 4 for a second because I want to get some other vocabulary worked back in here as well. I'm going to find the measure of angle 6 right now. Okay, so the measure of angle 6, if I look at the measure of angle 3, again, these two angles are on the inside of the sandwich. One's on one side of the transversal, one is on the opposite side of the transversal, one is from the top, one is from the bottom. So angle 3 and angle 6 are alternate interior angles, and alternate interior angles are congruent. So angle 6 is going to be 30 degrees. Okay, so 30 degrees, and that is because alternate interior angles are congruent, and that was with angle 3, just so you know which angle it was that I used. How about we do a pair of alternate exterior angles here? So for alternate exterior angles, how about we want to find the measure of angle 8? Okay, so angle 8 is on the outside of the sandwich, so it's exterior. So if I want on the top side, on the outside of the sandwich, I have to use either 1 or 2. And again, it has to be on the opposite side of the transversal. So 8 and 1 are going to be alternate exterior angles. So if the measure of angle 1 is 150, that means that measure of angle 8 is going to be 150. Okay, and that's alternate exterior angles are congruent. And again, I used angle 1 just so you know which angle I did that with. Let's see, how about we get a pair of corresponding angles in here? So I'm going to find angle 5 now. Let me change the color. I know this is Picture's getting a little busy here. Okay, so I want to find the angle 5 using corresponding angles. Okay, so again, corresponding angles, if I cut this picture right in half right there, and I take these angles and I place them on top of the bottom set of angles, again, angle 1 would land on top of angle 5. Those are corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are congruent, which means that angle 5 is going to be 150. And for that one, I said it was corresponding. Corresponding angles congruent, and that was to angle 1 that I used. Okay, and then for angle 4, let's use one other thing that is coming up inside of here. I'm going to erase some of this picture again just so we can kind of get a clearer idea of what's going on here. I'm going to keep the measure of angle 6, which is 30. Okay, so angle 6 was 30. Okay, so now I'm going to find the measure of angle 4. Okay, and to find the measure of angle 4, 6 and 4, that's what I'm going to use here. Again, each one could be found in multiple ways. I'm just trying to get all the vocabulary back in here. So these are interior angles on the same side of the transversal. They're on the inside of the sandwich and they're both on the same side of the transversal. Interior angles on the same side of the transversal are supplementary. So you want to know what plus 30 equals 180. If you subtract 30 from both sides, you get an answer of 150. So angle 4 is 150, and that's because interior angles, same side, I'll skip the word of just for space, of the transversal, and I'll put sup for supplementary, okay? So those are supplementary. The only other angle that we have to find is angle 7, and since I have angle 6 in my picture now, angle 6 and angle 7 are vertical angles, so how about we say that one is 30 as well, and again, that's because vertical angles are congruent, and we used angle 6 for that. Okay, and that's how you'd find all those other angles. And just take a quick look and notice that all your angle measures inside of this picture are either 30 or 150. Okay, it's always going to follow that pattern. Okay, for number 2, what are the measures of angle 3 and angle 4? And which theorem or postulate justifies each answer? Okay, so let's look for angle 3 first. So angle 3 is right here. So if I concentrate on, change the pen color so you can see these two lines that I'm going to highlight in red. Those are my two parallel lines. This would be cut by that transversal, which means angle 3 and angle 105. Those are interior angles. They're on opposite sides of the transversal. One's from the top, one's from the bottom. They're alternate interior angles. So angle 3 is going to equal 105 degrees. And again, that's because alternate interior angles are congruent. Okay, and then the other one that we were asked to find was angle 4. Okay, and angle 4 is down over here. And now I'm going to highlight different lines here. So this one in purple, and then this one in purple. So that's what I want to look at. And now angle 4 and angle 5 are interior angles on the same side of the transversal, which means that those two angles are going to be supplementary. So to find angle 4, I really want to know the measure of that angle plus 105 equals 180. So what plus 105 would equal 180? It would be 75. So angle 5 is going to be 75 degrees, and that is interior angles, same side of the transversal, are supplementary. They add to 180. Okay, and then for number 3, we want to find measures of the other angles inside of this picture. You just don't have to rewrite the picture or anything like that. So we just have to find all these other angles here. Okay, so for angle 1, well, we just found out that angle 4 was 75, and now angle 1 and angle 4 are alternate interior angles. So if angle, I'm looking at two different no, I'm right. Sorry, two different lines here. Okay, so if angle 4 is 75, that means angle 1 is 75 degrees also. Okay, and that's alternate interior angles. Okay, for angle 2 is here, and angle 2 and angle 1 are vertical angles, so those are going to be congruent. So that means that angle 2 is going to be 75 degrees, and that's because of vertical angles are congruent. And then for angle 5, two different ways to find it. Once I pick a way, I kind of stick with it just because I think it's easier. Angle 3 and angle 5 are vertical angles, and we found angle 3 before to be 105, which means that angle 5 is going to be 105. Or again, you could have said that angle 2 and angle 5 were supplementary. So either way, it's going to be 75, but I'll use the vertical angles again. Vertical angles congruent. And then for the measure of 108, so 108 is here. We have angle 2 already, so how about we do something a little bit different? So angle 2 and angle 8 form a straight line, so they have to be supplementary. They have to add to 180. So if angle 2 is 75, what plus 75 would equal 180? And that is going to be your 105 again. And that is because it's supplementary to angle 2. And now we want to find the values of x in the pictures that are given here. And again, it's going to be dependent on the information that you're given. So you're going to have to decide first what type of angles they are and then what's special about them. Okay, so in A, I have this angle here and then this angle. Again, if I cut this line right here and I take these angles and place them on top of these angles, x minus 13 is going to land right on top of 83. Those are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent. So congruent means that they're equal. So I'm going to set x minus 13 equal to 83. I don't know why that just did that. Okay, so x minus 13 is going to equal 83. Add 13 to both sides, and x is going to be 96. Okay, for part B, you have this angle here and this angle there, one from the top, one from the bottom, opposite sides of the transversal. That means that those two are alternate interior angles, and alternate interior angles are congruent. So again, we'll set them equal to each other. So 5x squared minus 25 is going to equal 4x squared plus 75. Okay, I'm going to subtract 4x squared from both sides. Write that out since this is the first time we're dealing with a quadratic. Okay, 5x squared minus 4x squared is 1x squared, or just x squared. So you're going to have x squared minus 25 on the left, and on the right we'll have 75. Now I'm going to add 25 to both sides. So 75 plus 25 is going to be 100, and x squared is going to be 100. Okay, again, first time that we're seeing this, we keep doing opposite functions to get things by itself. Well, here the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root. So if I take the square root of both sides, I'll be left with x on the left, and the square root of 100 is 10. So your value of x here is going to be 10. Okay, three more. Okay, these two angles here, those are interior angles on the same side of the transversal. Interior angles on the same side of the transversal are supplementary. They're going to add to 180. So I'm going to do x plus 40 plus 3x plus 60 equals 180. Okay, same side of the equation. We're just doing what the problem's telling us to do. So x plus 3x is 4x, and 40 plus 60 is 100. So I have 4x plus 100 equals 180. Subtract 100 from both sides. So I'm going to have 4x equals 80. And then divide both sides by 4. And x will be 20. So your value of x there is going to be 20. D, I don't have parallel lines here, but I do have a pair of vertical angles. So these two angles are vertical to each other, and vertical angles are congruent. So I'm going to set 4x equal to 2x plus 21. I'll subtract 2x from both sides, so 4x minus 2x will leave me with 2x, and I'll be left with 21 on the right. The opposite of multiplying by 2 is to divide by 2, and 21 divided by 2 is 10.5. So x is going to be 10.5. Okay, and then our last one here, I have 4x plus 5, and then I have 2x minus 11. These don't have a special name. You have one on the inside, one on the outside, but again, as you get the feel that either everything has to be equal or or your angles have to be supplementary. Those are the only two options here. So if you just go by visual looks here, the angle that's represented by 4x plus 5 is obtuse. It's greater than 90 degrees. The angle on the bottom, the 2x minus 11, that is an acute angle. It's less than 90 degrees. So you can't have an angle that's more than 90 degrees be equal to an angle that's less than 90 degrees. So if they can't be equal to each other, that means that these two have to be supplementary. So I'll set 4x plus 5 plus 2x minus 11 equal to 180. Again, same side of the equal sign. We're just doing what the problem tells us to do. 4x plus 2x is 6x. Positive 5 minus 11 is going to be a negative 6. So I'll have 6x minus 6 equals 180. I'll add 6 to both sides. So I'm going to have 6x equals 180 and divide both sides by 6. And x should give me an answer of 31. Okay, again, please make sure that you're playing along with your calculator. Check all your work against mine. Make sure you're getting the same answers that I am.